Lazy. Okay, thank Hashem. Be able to learn Torah every day. What's up? Learning Mishnah B'Beis Hamikdash immediately. Learning the Nishmat of the Basra Daf and the son of the Mitzvah, and therefore same problem the Mitzvah and Gedali. That's all the husband things. We're going to start on Kuf Lamed Vav 136 on the bottom. It's the second from the bottom line. Talking about over here that someone writes over his property to his son and he says, I'm giving it to you today and after I die, which basically means that the father's still going to use it while he's alive, and then the son is going to get it as the inheritance. We divided it up that we said like this. Because he says mehayim, that means that it goes back, it's retroactive, it goes back. The son owns the property from now, but the father has the kinyan peiros, the usufruct. He gets the usage of the property. So the Mishnah says that if the son sells the property, so the purchaser doesn't get any use of it, anything from it, until after the death of the father. The father sells the property, then the lekeach can eat from it while he's alive, just like because those are the rights that he still had, but doesn't get the actual property until after he dies. Actually, he doesn't get anything after he dies, because it's over, because he didn't have that right to sell it. So he only gets the use of it until he dies. On the other hand, when the son sells it, the lekeach doesn't have anything until he dies. The opposite. After he dies, he gets it. Okay. We have an opinion that says the owner of the field, it's like the owner of the field. That's the Gemara's going to discuss now. Yeah. Goes like this. Itmar, you have a statement. Machar haben b'chaye ha'av. If the son sold it while the father is alive, so what was the halacha in that case? The sale doesn't take place until after the son dies, right? Until after the father dies. Until after the father dies. However, in this case, in this case, the opposite occurred. The father didn't die, but the son died. So normally what would happen is that, how does the purchaser acquire it? He gets it through the son. The son sold it to him, but it's not the son's yet, entirely, right? Not the son's yet. So the son first has to acquire it. Then when the son dies, then it goes to the purchaser. And I'm sorry, when the son has to acquire it by the father dying, and then it goes to the purchaser. Over here, the son died before he got it. So what happens here? So Amar, Rabbi Yochanan says, like kind of like that. The purchaser doesn't get it because it never came into the possession of the son.
Retroactively goes back to the father.
No, it just stays by the father.
Oh, I never read that. Yeah.
Now, there's an interesting thing in this. What happens if the son never sold it? would the inheritors of the son acquire? What we're saying now is that because the son gave it up, it's going to a purchaser. So the son doesn't acquire it from the father. The son just gave it up. The son gave it, and the son dies. So the purchaser doesn't get it. But what if the son never sold it? Would the inheritors of the son get it, or would it? But now we're saying it goes back to the father.
You're asking.
Yeah, would it go to the grandson
after the father dies?
Yeah, let me see. This is a discussion. Rashbam discusses this.
What's this? Yoshia. No, that's Yoshia.
Yoshiav. Now,
Doesn't know from the.
yeah, no, he says no. Achi Yoshia ben. The lawyer Yoshia. It's only the selling that made him lose it.
where is that Rashbam?
Right? It's like 4 lines.
That's in
that case, when he sold it.
Yoshia ben Yorshin es matanasai le Yoshiav.
It's only the Mechira that kind of wiped his ownership. That's why Yoshia ben couldn't get it.
Im loy macharna ben b'chayav v'yamayda Rabbi Yochanan she'af al pi shemesa ben b'achach mesav filu hachi Yoshia haben Yorshin es matanasai v'lo Yoshiav. The opposite. How are you saying that? I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying afilu hachi Yoshia ben Yorshin es matanasai v'lo Yoshiav.
That's when he sells it.
Go to the second line. He didn't sell it.
Right, so it goes to
So it would go to the son.
Right, if he didn't sell it.
If he didn't sell it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Problem is they're quoting it over here. Af Yershi have been inam zeichem ben achasim.
If he sold it.
Oh, that's only
If
when
he
he sold
sold
it. Oh, okay.
Because he removed himself from the ownership.
Yeah. So the Rashbam is making this very complicated that it's going to the Yoshim of the father
if he sells it.
If he sells it, and if he doesn't sell it, it goes to the Yoshim of the son. And the question is, why doesn't it always go to the Yoshim of the son?
Because when he sold it, he removed himself from ownership.
Okay.
Then Adam Magna the word.
If the person is buying the rights to this field, is all its potential.
Are you saying because it's going to depend? Is he going to get it? It all depends on.
Is this going
asking
to
if this is like a smachta. The Hill is asking because he's only going to get it if the son doesn't die. It's one of these like gambles.
Is it a gamble or is it
Well, it's not like Balaylam. It's like Baliyade though. It's in a way it is Baliyade because he owns the actual property. No, his father has the rights to it, but the father had already given it to him. That he can. It's basically his. He has the kinyan aguf. The father has the kinyan payers. Let's take a look. Rish Lakish Amar Kaina Lekech. Rish Lakish says the opposite. Rish Lakish says that the Lekech does acquire. So this machlekes here, if the son dies, what ownership the son had over this property to be able to sell it to the purchaser. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he didn't really own it. It's the father that owned it. According to Rish Lakish, the son owned it. The father didn't really own it.
Excuse me, where is it saying that it's dividing up the goof and the paros?
Oh, you'll see in a second. One more line. You'll see.
Oh, okay.
That was from. Did I get that from the Mishnah? We were saying before that whenever you say Hayoim Malachar Misa, we meant that Hayoim. See, Hayoim Malachar Misa is a contradiction. So we said well, it's not really a contradiction because we can explain it by saying that Hayoim you get the guf and Malachar Misa you get the Paris. So it's not really a contradiction. That's how it's reconcilable. So over here, when he gives him the property, the father gives the son the property as a gift. He says, "Hayoim Malachar Misa."
Why can it be the opposite? Now you get the Paris and you get the Kuf.
Theoretically, that could work, but
why? Father holds the
theoretically that could work.
You can have the Paris now.
Usually,
That's how it is by default.
Usually the father wants to use his house and his car and everything, but he doesn't want someone else to get it in the inheritance. So he's giving it to this one as a gift. So, but he still wants to use it. If he wanted, he could give a full gift right now, but he doesn't want to give it. If he wants it to be after he dies as an inheritance, he doesn't want to give away all his money. So he says, it's a gift for you, but I'm still going to use it until as long as I need it. That's a way of making a will. Similar to that, exactly. Very good, very good. Like the property that the wife brings into the marriage, that the wife owns the nichse malug. The wife owns the guf, and the husband can eat the pears. So it goes. The Gemara elaborates. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yechanan amar leikana lekeach. Rabbi Yechanan says that the lekeach doesn't acquire it. That means the one that bought it off the son doesn't get it. Why? Because the father's ownership of this is very strong. Because the father that owns the peiros, he is the main owner. Basically, it's like a philosophical discussion. What is ownership if you can't use it? So the father is the one that has the usage. He's the real owner. And the father's the owner. In a way, it's like partners. But he's saying is that the son's sale doesn't take effect because of the father's ownership. It's only when the father dies that the son has those rights.
Barry Smith, this is why I asked the question. We've had examples earlier in Basra of selling a tree but not its fruits.
Right.
Selling a tree but not the land under it, separating pieces of ownership.
Right.
And if you're separating the pieces, if you're unbundling the rights of ownership between the goof and the paros, there's no reason the son can't sell. If he's just given the paros, he can sell it separately from the main thing. This argument, it seems to me, only is an argument if the goof and the paros are stuck together here.
No, but the son wanted to sell both. That was his intention.
Say that again, I couldn't hear that, excuse me.
Ramesh is saying the son is selling both. He's selling the guf and the peiros.
He now only has.
But right now he only has the guf. Question is, was he able to make a sale when he never ever gets the peiros?
When he never had them.
I thought rule is you can't sell what you don't own.
Right, but it's coming to him.
But in gift,
Well,
you were able to do the potential.
In a gift, yeah, Hill is saying that in a gift you're able to do the potential. Where did we say that? Over here. And that had to do with if you're able to control a gift after you've given it. That was a gift. That was the difference of gift and inheritance. Inheritance you don't control, right? So Rabbi Yechanan says that because the father owns it, the father has a kinyan peiros. therefore the son's sale is not a good sale because the son never got the payers. He passed away. Rish Lakish says, "Kana lekech." Says no, the lekech does acquire it, which means that the sale is good. And his explanation is, "Kinyan payers lavka kinyan guftami," because the father's ownership is not such a strong ownership, and the son is the real owner. The son was able to sell, according to Rish Lakish, the son was able to sell it right away because he had the kinyan aguf. Father say the Rabbi Yochanan saying that the father's ownership is stopping him from father's kinyan appears is stopping him from selling it. Okay, the Gemara says, you're telling me that there's a machlekes Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish over here, but I know this machlekes from before. They already argued about this in another place. Why do they have to argue about it again in our Mishnah? And this is the other place what they're discussing is the obligation to bring bikurim, the first fruits from your property. Now, we did this machlekes Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. The statement went like this: someone sold his field, but he only sold the usufruct. He didn't sell the actual field. He only sold the fruits of the field. So now the person that just purchased the fruits of the field for a certain amount of time, right? He wants to bring the bikurim, the first fruits. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Mevi V'Koireh. Rabbi Yochanan says that he brings the fruits, and he also can read the passage that says, "The land you have given to me." Rish Lakish Amar Mevi V'Koireh. Rish Lakish says that you can bring the first fruits, but you can't read that passage because, according to Rish Lakish, you don't own the land. So it comes out. It's the same logic, it just looks a little different. Same logic. Rish Lakish says kinyan apeiros is lavka kinyan aguf.
So if, according to Rish Lakish, if the son sells the land, then the father, that the payers he gains from that land falls off, so he won't gain anything. He stands to lose out.
According to Rish Lakish, tell me again. According to
Rish Lakish, if the son sells the land to a purchaser,
yeah,
then the son and the father wouldn't be able to
stop it.
to get the stop it, but also
Right.
he wouldn't get the payers. The land would fall off.
No,
Unless
because
he would
the
kind of
father-
live with the purchaser. That's
No,
a weird situation.
yeah, well, the person would have it on document, it would be his, but the father still eats the fruits.
Oh, even though
It's just
when
like
it's
you
a
have it,
stranger
yeah.
is, out-
Yeah,
oh, that's interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Survivorship would sound like this. We get both own and then unless the other one takes over the whole.
Oh. You familiar with that? What's that called?
The acronym is JTRS.
JTRS,
Joint tendency with
joint tenancy with
survivorship.
writers' survivorship. You ever heard that?
That's how most of us own our homes.
Oh, what does that mean?
That means that when you die, not you, if a husband and wife own a home with this joint tenancy with right of survivorship, when one dies, it automatically is owned 100% by the other spouse, so it doesn't go through inheritance.
Very interesting.
That's the spouse. This is father and son. The same thing.
Very
Is
interesting.
that why there's a
Okay.
second co-signing?
Now, if there's a cosign, yeah, maybe.
This is one of the reasons why all these rules of inheritance are not as important today, because of the way we own things as these rules used to be. Because the way we own things today men often bypasses inheritance.
Wow. That's so interesting. Okay, that's one detail that we didn't come across in this discussion. What is that?
They want the inheritance to go to the university.
Oh. So Rabbi Yochanan, the Gemara now explains the machlekes about bikurim. Rabbi Yechanan Amar maybe v'kaira. Rabbi Yechanan says that the person that just received the usufruct, that ownership, he could actually bring the bikurim, and he can even say the passage because savar kinyan peres kinyan aguftam, because owning the fruits is considered owning the property. When he says hine hivesius reishus pri adama shenasatali Hashem, right? The fruit, behold, I am bringing the first fruits of the land that Hashem has given to me. Hashem gave him the land because he owns the fruits. Rish Lakish says maybe you can't recite that passage because because he doesn't own the land. Yeah, you can't say Adama Shenasatali. Interesting. He still has to bring the fruits, though. That's the surprising part. Even according to Rish Lakish, still have to bring it. Yeah.
So the bracha you say after you bring Purim, that's a separate mitzvah in and of itself. Or does
Yeah,
that
it's just a
that's
reading a
strange.
passage.
Oh.
Yeah. If you lease the land and you have, I think it's considered an ownership for that time.
Are you putting equity in? There's different kinds, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Like,
So here we have a question. Why do we have to have this machlekes twice? We had a machlekes Rabbi Yechanan Rish Lakish regarding if the son sold the property but that he never got the usufruct, and Rabbi Yechanan says that the purchaser never receives it because the son didn't have the usufruct, which means the father's ownership of it is blocking the son from selling it. Rish Lakish said that no, the father's not blocking it because kinyan peres lavka kinyan guf. And then we have another machlekes about bikurim, the same thing. Rabbi Yechanan says that the usufruct is considered ownership, and Rish Lakish says it's not considered ownership regarding reciting the passage. So why do we need two machlekes here? Rabbi Yechanan explains that afal gav de ba'alma kinyan peres kinyan aguftami, even though in regular cases kinyan peres kinyan aguf. In other words, if someone sells a field to his friend, he sells him if he sells just the fruit, just the usufruct. That was the what we were talking about bikurim. So it could be that we would know that was clear. Kinyan peres kinyan aguf. But hacha here, when the father is giving to the son the kinyan aguf, the actual ownership, without the fruits, it's still necessary to say that the father has an ownership here. I could have thought that this case is a little different because when someone sells the fruit to a regular person, so he's selling him the kinyan peres, that's which is very strong. Over here, when the father is keeping the kinyan peres and giving his son the gift, I could have thought that Abba lagabe brei achuli achol, that maybe the father is not keeping so much for himself, he's giving to his son also some of the even though normally when you hold the peres, when you have the peres, you're holding part of the guf. That's really what's happening. You have like a hand in the field itself. But over here, when it's the father that's giving the guf to his son, he's not holding anything. He's letting the son have the whole thing.
It seems like he's actually part of this thing, Paris itself. It's not detached. That's how I could only see that you.
You say kinyan peres kinyan aguf, then when you own the fruits, even though someone else owns the guf, but that peres has like it's like enwebbed in the entrenched into the guf, you have some of that as well. So but here when the father is giving it to the son, the guf, he's giving him everything. That's what I could have thought. So Kamash Malana comes to teach me that no, that the father's kinyan peres is stronger than that, and the father's, even though it's giving it to his son, the father's kinyan peres is strong, and he's not giving his son the rights to be able to sell it. Yeah. Okay. Now we have to do the other side. We have to explain Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish, Rav Shimon ben Lakish Amar Afal Gav the Baal Matin Pes Lakin Kuftami. Even though when it comes to the Bikurim, where someone sells his Kenyan Paris, so Rish Lakish says that that's not considered a sale. The person does it's a sale. That's not considered that the person owns the land. So hacha, but over here in our case, it's true. I have to say it again, that the son owns it fully. In this case, the son owns the guf, the father owns the Paris. And I have to say that the father's ownership is not so strong. Because I could have thought that when a person sells, so okay, he's holding for himself the when the person sells, he's selling the fruits. He's making a strong sale. Kol gabi nafshei, afilu b'makom brei, nafshei adifalei. You see, when he's selling the fruits, he's just keeping the guf. But let's say he's keeping the Paris. And he's only giving the guf. We could say that when he's keeping the Paris, he wants to keep a little bit stronger than what he does when he's selling the Paris. When he's selling the Paris, he's not really selling. He doesn't want to sell much. Basically, the person is a little more stingy here. This is Rish Lakish's view. The person sells the Paris, the Yusufra, so he's only selling the very external part of this property. And that's why Kenyan Paris is Lavka Kenyan Aguf. That purchase, that guy that just bought the fruits is not able to recite the passage, the land that I own. He doesn't really own the land. He just owns that usage of the fruits. But let's say it's the opposite. The same stingy person, he's not selling the fruits now. Now he's giving or selling the land, and he's keeping the fruits. So I could have thought that even though he's giving it to his son, but nevertheless, when he's keeping the fruits, he's keeping more than just the fruits. And here I would say that he would agree to Rabbi Yochanan, that Kenyan Paris is Kenyan Aguf. So therefore, Kamash Malana comes to tell me that even when he's keeping the Paris, nevertheless, his what he keeps is not really so strong. And Kenyan Paris is Lav Kenyan Aguf. Yeah, that was Rabbi Yochanan's logic. The father to the son is more generous. Lakish's logic is that I could have thought that the father to the son is more generous, and therefore the father's ownership is not so strong. That's Rabbi Yochanan's logic. I could have thought that. Kamashmalan that we don't say that. Rish Lakish's logic is I could have thought that that even a father to the son, he's still holding back. The opposite, right? Yeah, Rashbam speaks out that way we just explained it was that the first machlokes that we have is about the bikurim, where a person sells just the yusufra, and that was the original machlokes. That's the way we're explaining. What would be in the case where a person is giving to his son the guf, the actual hamehayem elachamisa? Then I could have thought it would be the opposite. The Rashbam says that if you want, you could start the other way. Say that the main machlokes is, the original machlokes is where a person is giving his son the guf mihayem alachamisa, this property is yours. You could do it the other way. And then say that the second machlokes is the bikurim. And why do I need a second machlokes? You just flip the logics. And you say that Rabbi Yochanan holds that really a father would be, really even for a father would be stingy. And you could say it the exact same logic. Each one takes the other side. Okay. Esfer Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. It's going to ask him about Kenyan Paris. Rabbi Yochanan holds Kenyan Paris, Kenyan Aguf. Now he has a kasha on Rish Lakish. Someone tells his friend, Nechaselach, I'm giving to you my property, But after your death, he tells him after your death, Yirish Pliny. Someone else is going to get the property. He's trying to control that inheritance afterwards, which he's able to do. What he wants to do is he says, I don't want your inheritors to get it. I want it to go to someone else. And after that person, Yirish Pliny. Someone else is going to get it. So there's now there's 4 people. There's the giver. There's the person he's giving it to. Achav Yirish Pliny. No, there's 3 people. 3 people. Okay. Now, Meis Rishon, if the first person died, so Kana Sheni, then the second person acquires it. Meis Sheni, Kana Shlishi. The second person dies, then the third person acquires it. It says, now it gets slightly complicated. It says Meis Sheni B'chaye Rishon. Let's say the second person dies while the first person is still alive. Yachzru Nechasim Liyarshe Rishon. Doesn't go to the third. There are 4 people here. There are 4 people. There's the person that's giving it. He says it's going to you. After you, it goes to Pliny. Okay. After Pliny, someone else, another Pliny gets it. So there's 4 people, 3 beneficiaries, and one giver.
Doesn't Poloni have to be a Yoresh of the first one? Because he uses,
that's what he's avoiding.
he can't avoid it, but he can't avoid it. Because we learned that you can't control an inheritance.
No, but here he's saying the chasilach has a matana.
Yeah, but Nekasilak, I'm giving you a gift, and then it's going to your inheritor.
No.
Because it says Yoresh Poloni.
Yeah, but when he says Yoresh, he doesn't mean
Inheritance.
It doesn't mean he doesn't mean inheritance. He means that it's being given. I think this was used as a proof that whenever you say matana, it means for the whole sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how he's able to do this. He's avoiding the Yerusha coming in here. Yeah, with Rabbi Yochanan tells to Rish Lakish, Vimisa, and if it's the way you say it, what happened? I'm sorry. What happened is if the first recipient dies, then the second person gets it, right? And then if the second person dies, then the third person gets it. Let's say the second person died while the first recipient still has it. So now we don't say that it skips over him to the third person.
Then this goes against the instruction.
We don't say that it skips over. It goes back. What happens is it stays by the first person's inheritors. It would only go to the second person if he was alive. Now Rabbi Yochanan explains. He says, "B'misa." And if, according to you, that kinyan peiros lavka kinyan aguf, then liyarshi noisin mibayilei. It should really stay. It should go back. It should not stay by the first beneficiary. It should go back to the person that's giving it. What does the first person own? The first person only owns the kinyan peiros. He only has the usage of it. That's how he's able to do this type of gift. He's giving it to him only to use while he's alive, but he doesn't really own it. So if he's only a kinyan peiros, so why does it go? Why does he all of a sudden get the kinyan aguf that it goes to his inheritors? He was just using it. According to you, Rish Lakish, it should go back to the first person that that gave it to him. He had the kinyan aguf. It must be Rabbi Yochanan's logic is it must be that kinyan Paris is lav kinyan Paris is kinyan aguf. That's why the first beneficiary is now bequeathing it to his inheritors, even though he only had a kinyan Paris. It must be kinyan Paris is kinyan aguf. The fruits is that right? That's Rabbi Yochanan's logic. This is his question on it. Okay.
Says that specifically not to the heirs, but then it ends up going to the heirs.
It does end up right.
Seems like a contradiction.
He told him that instead of going to your heirs, it should go to this other person. As long as that person died. So now it goes to his heirs.
He said that he didn't want the heirs to get it. How is it going to end up by the heirs?
He didn't say that he doesn't want the heirs to get it. He implied that he doesn't want the heirs to get it by saying it should go to someone else. But now that he died, so it's not. It doesn't go to him. Why doesn't it skip? Apparently, it only goes to the third person via the second person, since the second person never got it, so it doesn't go to him. This is very similar to the first case that we had. The father giving it to the son doesn't get it. What did Rabbi Yochanan say over there? Rabbi Yochanan said if the son doesn't get it, then the purchaser doesn't get it. And over here we're saying the son doesn't get it, but it goes to we're saying that it's the same thing. It matches. It matches. Okay, so Amar Lei, Rish Lakish responds to Rabbi Yochanan. He says, "I'm not so concerned about your question because that brisa that you're asking me from, that you're telling me that kinyan Paris is kinyan guf, or else how does the person bequeath it to his inheritors if he doesn't really own it?" Rabbi Shi already explained that acharecha shiny. Whenever a person says acharecha, that after you get it, then someone else gets it, that's a different story. Whenever you say acharecha, then there's after you, right? Then there's this much stronger gift than just a regular kinyan Paris. Why is that? Because acharecha means that only what's remaining. It means I'm giving it to you as much as you use. And after you, whatever's remaining, I don't know what's going to be left. Whatever's remaining will go to the next person, which means he's giving him more than the which means he's giving him the kinyan aguf as well. And that's why when the second person passes away, the first person's inheritors acquire. This question was also asked by Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, Rav Huna's son, who's a student of Rav. Rav Huna is a student of Rav. Rabbi Bar Rav Huna asked in front of Rav. He says, "Why doesn't it go to the first person, to the first owner? Why does it stay by the second person's, by the beneficiary's inheritors?" He says, "He asked the same question. He gave that answer. So Rabbi Shia and Rav, maybe Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, said now the Gemara asks back on Rabbi Yochanan. Says Vatanya, I have another brisa that says Yachzor Yarshan Noisin. Exactly the opposite. That it goes to the first person, doesn't stay by the recipient, goes back to the first person, which means that the ownership of the first person is just the kinyan Paris, and kinyan Paris is lavke kinyan aguf. Now it's a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Another brisa goes exactly the opposite. Gemara says, Tanai, that's the way we're going to answer this. We're going to say that even though you have a brisa that contradicts me, but that's not a problem because I don't go like that opinion. It's machlekes tanoim, and that brisa is a different opinion. Okay. What's the brisa? The Tanya. We have a brisa like this. It says, I'm giving you my property, and after you're finished with it, which means after that person dies, it goes to someone else. The first person, the recipient, he sold the property and he consumed all the money that he got for the sale. So there's nothing left. So Hasheni Maitzi Miyad Halakuchas. After the first person dies, so he goes to the purchaser and he says that I was supposed to be the beneficiary of that property, and he extracts him. That means that the first person's sale is not really valid. Similar to that partnership. Yeah.
Can a father make a condition and say, I'm going to give this to you like from now until like I pass away, and make this condition so that you can't sell, your son can't sell.
As a gift, I think you could control it like that, right?
But
as an inheritance, then you can't control it. So the Rebbe, the opinion of Rebbe is lav kinyan aguf, that the recipient does not really have the rights to sell. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is Rebbe's father. Yeah, Rebbe would line up with Rish Lakish. Shimon ben Gamliel, ein l'sheni ala masha shirishin. The second person only gets what the first person left, which means that whatever, if it was sold, if it was the income that came from it was all finished up, it's consumed, so he doesn't get anything. So Reb Shimon ben Lakish would follow Rabbi Yechonah. Yeah. Now the Gemara has a question that contradicts Rebbe and Reb Shimon ben Lakish. It says, Ramini, I have a brisa that says the opposite. It says if someone tells his friend, I'm giving you my property, but after you, it's going to go to someone else, which means that as long as he lives, he can use it. Afterwards, it goes to someone else.
And that also means you can't sell it after I'm giving you this property. Then when you're done, you have to give it to somebody else.
Well, that's really the machlekes here. Can you sell it in the interim? Well, let's see. Yerid Rishon and Meicha Beichel. Rebbe holds that the first person can go down. Thank you. First person can go down and sell it. He has the rights to do that. Is that what Rebbe held in the last one? No, in the last one he held exactly the opposite. Shimon ben Gamliel says that no, it's exactly the opposite. He says that the first person is only allowed to eat the fruits. He's not allowed to sell it. What happened in the last brisa? Shimon ben Gamliel says he sold it, so the second person loses out. There's nothing left for him. Over here he says he's not allowed to do that. Well, Kasha Rebbe, other Rebbe. There's a contradiction between what Rebbe said in the first brisa and what Rebbe says in the second brisa, and also the Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. There's a contradiction between Reb Shimon ben Gamliel as well between the two brises. Mari answers like this: the Rebbe like Kasha. It's not a problem. When what Rebbe said, this brisa where it says that the person can extract it from in the first brisa, it says that he can go and take it out from what he sold. That's talking about the gufa. The actual property, the person, Rebbe holds that This should be held kinyan pairs, arka kinyan aguf.
The first one.
The first one was lavka kinyan aguf, right? We explained it according to Reish Lakish. So the person can extract, the person wasn't able to sell it. Second person gets it. It says, what is it? What can he extract from the purchaser? He can extract the actual property. What is he not able to extract when in the second brisa where he says that the person can go and sell and eat and all of that? That's talking about linyan peiros. That's talking about the peira, right? So he was able to sell the fruits. Wasn't able to sell the property, the guf, but he was able to sell the fruits, and that answers the contradiction in Rebbe. And Rav Shimon Gamliel had Rav Shimon Gamliel like kasha. When it says that he's not able to sell it, that's l'chatchila. L'chatchila, you're not supposed to sell it because the person clearly said, I wanted to go to someone else. This is the brisa that says, that's the first brisa, that says he only gets what's remaining is diavad, if it was sold already. Because he violated the instructions, but it doesn't mean that it didn't work. Okay. Amar Abaya says, Ezeu Russia Aram. Who's the Russia Aram? Aram, how do they translate Aram there? Cunning. Cunning. But you have to put the emphasis on Malbish Arumim. Malbish Arumim. There's a I think there's a dot in the mem. Is there a siddur here? Pass me that siddur. We're saying brachas. Yeah. Malbish Arumim. There's a dot in the mem in Arumim.
Oh, that's what the dot in.
Arum, well, you're not gonna have a dot in the last letter of a word, but the dot, there's a different emphasis between someone that's cunning or wise. Arum could mean wise or cunning,
right?
Smart, and Arum could also mean naked.
Right.
It's weird in the Chumash you have the word Arum being used. Yushneim Arumim v'layis b'shashu v'anachashaya Arum, like one pasuk away from the next, and it's totally a different word. They're both naked, and the snake was cunning, and it uses the same word, the same consonants. But the difference is that Arum with the dot and the mem, Arumim, not Arumim. Arumim is means naked. Artiloyan degushin. I think there's a dictic expression that the poor are very stubborn, something, and that's why there's a dot. A dot in a dagush means like they're like harder, and the chachamim, the wise, are soft. And that was a play on the word arum. The wise are more flexible. That's what it was. The poor are more inflexible. Unflexible. Yeah. Anyway, so Ezer Russia Aram, who is this wise Russia, this cunning Russia? Zamasi Eitza Limkar Benachasim Karabshim Megamliel. This is when a person tells the first recipient to sell the field that he just received before it goes to someone else, and which, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, b'diavad it's considered sold. If you do that, he tells him basically avoid. Don't worry about the lechatchila. He says just do it. You'll see it's gonna be okay. turns out that someone that gives this type of advice is considered a rasha because he's violating the wishes of the benefactor. Why is it considered arum? Because it actually works. That's it. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, we're going to discuss now the difference between a matana and a sale. Matna shchivmira versus a sale. Halacha Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. The halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that if a person sells, if the recipient sells it, the second person doesn't get anything from it. However, the first person decided to give it as a gift, as a shchivmira, he didn't do anything. Now, you have to see the logic for this. My timer, what's the reason why he didn't do anything? If he sold it, it would have been sold. It says a bunch of pages. My timer, what's the difference? Amar Abaya says, Matna shchivmira lekana ela la'achar misa. He told him, he says, how does a matna shchivmira work? It only works after he dies. Matna shchivmira, when the shchivmira, when the person on the sickbed says that I want someone else to...
That takes effect after he passes away because he might get healthy.
Yeah, you make it healthy. So it only takes effect after. But once it's after he dies, then the instructions of the benefactor were that it's not going to your head, it's going to someone else. So after he dies, he doesn't have that say anymore. So, like Gemara now asks, did Abai actually say that the matna shchivmira takes effect only after the death? But we have a statement, when does the matna shchivmira, when does the beneficiary of a gift of someone on his deathbed, when does that take place? Abaya Amar im gemar misa, not after, but simultaneous to the death, which means that he really should be able to give it to someone else before the second beneficiary takes it. Rava Amar la'achar gemar misa, and according to Rava, it only takes effect afterwards. It means according to Abaya, he should be able to give it out to someone else. The Gemara says, well, Abaya retracted from that statement. The Gemara asks, how do you know you retracted from that statement? I know there's a contradiction in Abaya, but you're conveniently saying which way Abaya retracted from. So he retracted from the one that says that it's im gemar misa, and you're saying that it's only la'achar misa. Im gemar.
Not often.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. We say hadar bei me'ahi. Yeah. There were two statements here. One was that the matna shchivmira is after the death, it's acquired. Another one is simultaneous to the death. We said that he retracted from the simultaneous statement. How do you know he retracted from now? Maybe he retracted from the first one that says it's after the death. The Gemara says, so you can't say that. Why? The Tanan, we have a mission like this. Zegiteich imati. He says, this is your get if I die. This is a person telling his wife. When I die, this is your get. Zegiteich mecheli. This is your get if I die from this sickness. Zegiteich lachamisa. This is your get after I die. The rule is layam klum. He's handing it to her now, stipulating that it's taking effect with this. It's like a stipulation. If I die, it takes effect, but not that it takes effect now. It takes effect then. That's a stipulation. He wants to get. There's different ways. Different ways of making a stipulation. You can say that it's me'achshav alachami, right? And then it would actually work. Or if he says only after I die. Right, you can make stipulations on a guess. I mean, we don't today, but in the Gemara, there's possibilities of doing that. The rule is ain't get lachar misa, that there's no get afterwards. Now, why don't we say that the get takes effect with the moment of death?
Yeah, we have
And it's
that. Someone's
simultaneous.
Traveling and make this condition. So she won't be
Right.
to hold the chain.
Naguna. Right. So why don't we say that it's simultaneous? Because we don't say that these things work simultaneous with the death. We only say it works after the death, which means that just like by the get, we say that it only takes effect after the death, not simultaneous to the death. Yeah, this is interesting. There's only a problem of ein get lachar misa. There's no problem of ein get together with the misa. Okay. I had this thing with that it says by Yehi b'chatzi alayla, right? It says by chatzais. It says the firstborns died, right? And it says by Yehi kachatzais. Kachatzais. It says once. It says kachatzais, approximately by. So this he said. That's a question. It's like a Reb Chaim's question. I forget how it went, but he said, "How could he?" How could they die? Oh, this question was like this. There's no such thing as chatzais. There's only before chatzais and after chatzais. Chatzais is an imaginary line that doesn't take up any time. You're either before chatzais or after chatzais. So how does Shem say that they're gonna die, the firstborn is gonna die at chatzais? No such thing as chatzais. Right? It's a moment in time that only divides between before and after. There's no actual moment of it's chatzais. It's once you say that, it's already after.
Not for some.
No, but so what you do is you divide that in half again, right? But you're making it look like when you make a line between countries, right? So is there any part that's actually between the countries, or do you just keep dividing up until okay, this is America, this is Canada, There's no actual spot that's not this and not that. So we're saying that chatzais should not really have a spot that's not before and not after. There is no, that's either before or after, right? It's just an imaginary line. So how does he say bachatzais bachatzi alayla? So anyway, this was a question that they said Reb Chaim asked or something. So he said, well, it's a simple answer because there's no such thing as death either. The person's alive or he's dead. So what happened was before they were alive and afterwards they're dead. So they both of the things like that. Anyway, so here we're saying that you can't say that the get takes effect together with the death. You can't say together with the death. It's only after the death you could say that, and then it doesn't work. Don't say that it's together with. Okay. That's how we're answering. That's how that Abaya didn't say that it's together, that the Matna Shchivmira is together with the death. It's after the death, and therefore Acharecha comes first. Amar Abzeir, Amar Rabbi Yechanan.
It's like a special case also.
For the safe flight.
Is it a special case because it was first?
I know this has been saying that it's not a special case. We're saying that this is the general rule that it always takes effect afterwards, after the death. You're going alone. You're taking. Oh, nice. Oh, amazing. Wow. Okay. You set up the tour for us for next year.
Oh yeah.
Set up the tour, yeah.
Oh,
Moshe is going to Eretz Yisrael. He's arranging where we're staying and all of that next year. Amar Rab Zeir, Amar Rab Yechanan, Rab Zeir says, name Rab Yechanan, Allah Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. The Allah is like Rab Shimon ben Gamliel that says that there's nothing left for the second person if the first person sold it, right? The beneficiary was able to do that. Even if there were slaves amongst them and he set them free, right? In other words, the first person to the owner of this this property says, giving this to you while you live, and afterwards it's not going to your inheritors, it's going to someone else. So this first recipient, there were slaves there, he sets them free. And now what happens the second guy? He loses out. There's no slaves, they're freed. So the Gemara says Pshita, of course, that's exactly what Rav Shimon ben Gamliel said. Why do you have to add in afilu this? This mao the tame, I could have thought it was never yours to do a prohibition. Remember, we learned that there's a prohibition to set the slaves free. It says they're supposed to serve you forever. And so Kamash Malan, it says that nevertheless, okay, he violated the prohibition, but nevertheless, it was his. He still had the ownership to be able to do that.
You acquire those slaves.
Yeah, whoever he acquired it, however the Kenyan was, that's how he did it. Rabbi Yechanan is telling us the Allah is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, even with slaves. His chiddush is that they so his Rabbi Yechanan holds Kenyan Peres Kenyan Aguf, and so therefore he has the rights even to set it free. He holds like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yosef says name Rabbi Yechanan. Allah Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Even if he made them, he took the property that was given to him and he made it as tachrichim. Now the rule with tachrichim are shrouds, right? The rule is that it becomes prohibited for anyone else to have benefit from it. The Gemara says pshita. That's obvious. He said that it's his. It's his. What's the difference? What he does? It says ma'odatim. I could have thought l'shavinu yisrael la yavilah. Person can say, I didn't give it to you. Then that you should make it asr ba'ana, that no one else can have benefit from. Kamash Malan, Rabbi Yechon saying that no, it's so much his that he can even do that. Okay. There's a discussion now. We had a machlekes about Kinyan Peres, Kinyan Aguf between Rabbi and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, right? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says the first person has the rights to get rid of the item before the second person gets it, sell it or whatever. And Rabbi held that you weren't able to do that. So Darash Rab Nachman bar Rav Chisda. Yeah, Rab Nachman bar Rav Chisda. Interesting. I didn't know that Rav Chisda had a son, Rab Nachman. You know, we had Mar Yenuka, Mar Kashisha. We had those two sons, the older one and the younger one, right? Now we have Rab Nachman. It says Rab Nachman bar Rav Chisda taught this. Esrog zeh nasan lach b'matana v'acharecha leplaini. This esrog is being given to you as a gift. However, it doesn't go to your inheritors. It goes to someone else after you. Not Leirisha in the Yatzah. First person took it and he fulfilled the mitzvah of Dalad Minim, right? He shook the lulav.
But he keeps it afterwards.
It's got to go to someone else now. So Banal Machlekes Rabbi Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. This is now a Machlekes between Rabbi and Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Was he yaitze the mitzvah? It says that you have to use your own dalad minim. It says l'kachtem lechem b'yom rishon. Has to be yours. According to Rebbe, it's not really yours because you're not allowed to sell it. You only have the usage of it, and usage of it is not considered the kinyan aguf. It's not like you really own it.
You're not allowed to sell it.
If it would have been the tree, if you would have given him a tree, esrog tree, then the person would have owned the fruit. But he didn't give him he just gave him the esrog. Now, what's the fruit of the esrog? I don't know what the fruit of the esrog is, but whatever it is, you don't own the guf. You don't own the esrog. You only own whatever you can do with the esrog. Now, what can you do with the esrog? Well, you can shake it, but that's not going to help because you need to own it properly according to well,
You sell it.
no, but you can't. According to Rebbe, you can't even sell it.
Why not?
Rebbe holds Kinyan Paris is Lavka Kinyan Aguf. The first recipient of the item,
Oh, wow.
it doesn't have the rights to do anything with it. According to Reb Shimon Gamliel, it says he could sell it, so it's his entirely. So therefore, if he could sell it, then it's his. He could shake it. Maskefler of Nachum Bar Yitzchak. Nachum Bar Yitzchak asks Rav Nachum Bar Chisda. Says Ad Kan Pligi Reb Shimon Gamliel Hasam. Why? When was there a machlekes Rabbi and Reb Shimon Gamliel? That was only Ela Demar Savar, which is Reb Shimon Gamliel holds Kinyan Peiros Kinyan Aguftami. Reb Gamliel holds that if you own the usufruct, then you own the thing itself, and therefore you're able to sell it. Mar Savar, but Rebbe holds Kinyan Peiros Lavki Kinyan Aguftami. That owning the fruits does not mean that you own the actual item. Ela Hacham, but here. It's given to the first person, and after the first person is supposed to go to someone else. If the first person can't be yaitz the mitzvah with it, so what does it mean he gave it to him? This esrog is not a tree. It's this you can normally say this by a tree, like you said. You give him a tree, he can get the fruits of the tree. But the esrog is not a tree. Esrog, there's nothing you can do. There's no fruits of the esrog. Unless you can shake it, that could be a fruit.
Bond only relates to someone who's gifting something. It's not like someone went to the
But not only that,
store
it's
and
only he's gifting it to him in a way that it's not really his.
then-
There's a lot of strings attached there.
It's okay. So it's not,
Yeah.
it's not like go to the store and get
It's the type of gift when they usually tell you better go buy it yourself.
No.
So Ella Meipak, rather we have to say, we have to say when it comes to being Yaitz, Meipak means to be Yaitz, to go out. Yaitz means to go out, means to fulfill. When it comes to fulfilling the obligation, Rebbe and Reb Shimon Gamliel would hold that you are Yaitz. You can't sell it, but he's giving it to him for a reason. The only thing is, Machroi, Achloi, if he ate it or he sold it, that would be a machlekes between Rebbe and Shimon Gamliel. According to Rebbe, he has to pay for it. According to Shimon Gamliel, no, he was allowed to do it whatever he wanted because it was given to him. Amar Rab Baravuna says, let's say there's two brothers that they inherited the estate, but they didn't divide it yet. And they bought an esrog. Not one person took the esrog without his brother's knowledge, the yatzabai, and he shook the lulav. If the other brother would have allowed him to eat it, in other words, they're not makbid one on each other, then yatza, then he was able to be yaitzer. It's considered his. But if the other brother would not allow him to eat it, then la yatzer, because it's not totally his. It has to be entirely his. It can't be a esrog of shutrim. There are other mitzvahs that shutrim can do, like a talis of shutrim is chayv b'tzitzis. However, by esrog it says creates hadar, and it doesn't say. It doesn't use the word of lachem. Actually, kachdem lachem. Lachem is a plural. Yeah. So why is shutrim not good? Apparently, the lachem, which is a plural, means that each and every one of you individuals need to have. It's just like this collective type plural, but not an actual plural. Yeah, you're familiar with that? I think that exists somewhere in the grammar. I don't know how to say it exactly, but there's a type of plural where it means all of you as one, right? All of you as one.
You
and
means
you as a plural in Old English. You as a plural instead of thou. Right? That was a
they dropped down.
But there's a type of plural where it's all of you. There's a type of plural where you're talking to each and every one of them individually, and you can say that all of you individually. So the lachem and lakachtem lachem is each of you individually need to take your own esrog. It's like not fish, all of you take one esrog. Yeah, it depends. I think the school of fish. I think you can say fishes, and that's a school. I think you can get a plural of schools of fish, not individual fishes. You know, it's not. You don't say individual fishes.
Furniture.
Very interesting.
That's the word in Sphera, isn't it? Lachem means each of you
Yeah.
to count.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, as
Rather
opposed to
than-
Besden or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that in languages that don't have a separate present tense from a future tense. I don't know which languages they are. I don't know, Mandarin or some languages. We have a clear present tense, present future, but in those languages, but there's no separate future tense from present tense. It's the same. They think that their long-term behaviors they're much more careful, like they exercise more, like because their future and present way they speak is the same as the
Oh, wow.
so they the things that you only have to worry about like the long term, they worry about more. We divided it up, so it's not the present, so it's like don't worry about it later. Yeah. The power of language. Okay, the kind of between a bias, we say that you're not v'dafke the ikke esrog l'chol chad b'chad. This would only be if there are esregim in this that each one can take, and then we would say that they're not makbid. If you take it, if you eat it, or whatever. Aval, but if there's only one esrog, and there's other things there, but it's not an esrog. Parish, a reman, what's a parish? What's a pomegranate? What's a quince? A quince. Okay. Then you're not going to be yaitz with this esrog because the other person doesn't want you to eat the esrog. There's only one esrog there. Okay. Amar Rava says esrog zeh nasalach b'matana menashe tachsi reoli. That's our trick. It says this esrog is given to you as a gift, but on condition that you give it back. So, not loy v'yatzabai. If he takes it and he uses it for the mitzvah, then there's a stipulation here. If he returns it to him, then yatsa, then he fulfills the mitzvah because the stipulation was I'm giving it to you on condition that you return it to me. It's only yours if you return it. But if he doesn't never returns it, then la yatsa. There was a condition. It was never his. Okay. Kamash malan the matana matana. We learned from this that it's actually considered lachem with the matana manas lachser. I'm giving it to you on condition you return it to me. It's actually considered yours while you have it. Yeah, very interesting. Ahi itza was a person. There was a woman. The havali dikla ba'ara de Rav Bibi Barabaya. She had a palm tree, but it was in the land of Rav Bibi, but it was in his field. Well, every time she came in to get some fruits, he would give her a hard time. He would, don't come now, you're walking on my things. It's like very difficult. She says, you know what? I'm gonna let you, it's yours while you're alive. I don't want to deal with you. So I don't know. That was the story.
There's special laws.
I don't know. Azal Iyo, Rabbi Barabai went, and he gave it to his son. Well, what the woman said is that I don't want to deal with you, Rabbi Barabaya. You're difficult. But after she passes away, she wants it back. So she gave it to him while he's alive. And while he's alive, he gave it to his son. So according to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, he's allowed to do this. It's considered like acharecha, right? She didn't say acharecha. Acharecha means she just wants it back, not to go to someone else. Amar Rav Huna, breder of Yeshua, mishum da asamim malay amrisim milim malaysa, because you come from B'nai Eli that came from the city of Muloi, then that's why you say these things that are Malaisa, which are, how do they translate that? Cut off? Truncated? Blemished. He's telling him that Abaya comes from the descendants of Eli. That's why they passed away young. He lived 60 years. Remember that? The Rebbe was 40. Humped. That's what it says. Because you think that he's allowed to sell it or to get rid of it, and that's not true. That was own. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says when it says that afterwards it's going to go to someone else, so then you're able to sell it. But if the person wants it back, I'm giving it to you while you're alive, but I want it back afterwards, then that person is not allowed, he can't sell it. It's only if it says acharecha and it's going to go to someone else after you, then he had the rights to do them, not when they're taking it back.
It says she gave it to him.
She gave it to him till he dies. If he gave it to his son, but if he would have said, I'm giving it to you, and then afterwards to someone else, then fine. But because she says, I'm giving it to you, and then I want it back, he can't give it to someone else.
Yeah, he can't.
Because it was like a temporary ownership.
Right.
It's like a minor.
Even though Shimon Gamliel holds that temporary ownership, if it would be temporary ownership for him, but afterwards it goes to someone else, he would hold that temporary ownership is enough to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
But not when it's coming back to him.
The other one is after you.
After you, right?
Yeah.
Marav Nachman, Rava says name of Nachman. This ox, someone tells his friend, this ox is given to you as a gift, but you have to give it back to me. Well, while he had it, iktishay. He made it hektish. And then he gives it back. Says, well, it's hektish now. And it's also returned. He gave it back. When he gives it back, it's very interesting because when he gives it back, that's when it becomes his. But that's when we see that it was his. Now, if it was his, so now it's hektish.
Say again?
It's not his really until we know that he gives it back. So he gave it back. Now, once he gives it back, immediately we say, oh, now it was actually yours, so now it's hektish.
You say,
You see, there was the
you're saying that the hektish extends beyond when he had it?
Yeah.
How can that be? How can you make hektish something you don't own?
Because it was a matana manas la'achzer.
Yeah,
Gave it
but
to him,
that means you don't fully own it. I mean, it's
We were
like a
saying-
get. You can't give a get and still control something the woman does.
No, that was special. That had to do needed krisis. You needed to be separated. Can't
Yeah,
control
but property rights are the same way.
We were saying that a person can fulfill the esrog, the mitzvah of esrog, with the matana manas la'achzer. It's considered
Right.
his. They're saying, okay, so he was also able to make it hektish. He wasn't able to give it to someone else. That's interesting, because he wasn't able to. Rabbi Bar Abaya wasn't able to give it to his son. Let's see what happens. Gemara says, Amalei Rav Rav Nachman Maya Hadre. What did he give back? If it's hektish already. If it's hektish, he didn't return it. Right? He gave him something that's hektish. So Amalei, Nachman responds, "My chasre." But there's nothing missing from it. It's still whole. Elam Ravashi. Ravashi says like this: if he said that on condition that you return it, and he didn't say li, you have to return it. Being very specific here. If he says li or not, then he gave it back. But if he says you have to return it to me, then midi dechazi leikamale, then it has to be actually returned. It can't be hektish. So if he made it hektish, this is like how does that that alarm, that clapper goes, that is like this magnet, then when it hits it, the magnet turns off. If there's a magnet, it turns off, it goes back, then the magnet's on. So that's how it keeps going, you know, those alarm clocks.
I never knew. I don't know where
Yeah,
that is.
it's somehow it has this like loop that it can go on because it keeps. Anyway, what happens over here is that if he says on condition that you return it to me, so then because you're not returning it to me, so then it wasn't because you made it hektish, so it's not being returned to me. So therefore, it was never yours to make it hektish, because if it was a condition, you have to return it. So it goes back. So okay, it wasn't yours to make it hektish. So then only then are you able to return it to me.
So if you can say nothing happened.
It's considered like nothing. If the word li was there, but if the word li was not there, then it's considered hektish. Okay, let's leave it over here. We're holding by.
Yeah.
Or Amar
Yeah, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Okay, I think we're still a page behind. I think. Right?
Oh, I think we're put up.